Welcome to Learn English with Sara. Today, we'll enjoy a beautiful romantic story that will help you improve your English while discovering an unforgettable lesson about love, courage, and honesty. So get comfortable, listen carefully, and let's begin the story together. Elena was a quiet, humble girl who lived in a small town surrounded by the scent of freshly baked bread and the sound of early morning footsteps. Every day at 5:30 a.m., she opened the old wooden door of the bakery where she worked. She arranged the warm muffins, sweet rolls, and soft loaves of bread that she and her mother made through the night. Her hands were always busy, her smile gentle, her eyes calm but full of unspoken dreams. She didn't think of herself as beautiful, but everyone else could see it: the soft grace in her movements, the kindness in her voice. She never asked for much from life, only peace and enough work to help her family. Then one morning everything changed. A young man stepped into the bakery just as the first rays of sunlight touched the windows. His name was Louise. He was tall, polite, and dressed in fine clothes that showed he came from a different world. Everyone in town knew the name of his family. They were rich, the kind of rich that had cars, businesses, and a large house on the hill. But when he walked into Elena's small bakery, he didn't look like someone who wanted to show off. He smiled shyly and said, "1 chocolate muffin, please." The next morning he came again. And the morning after that, too. People began whispering, "Why is Louise visiting that little bakery every day? Is he lost? Is he in trouble?" But Louise was not lost. He simply wanted to see Elena. He began asking her questions. "Do you like reading? What kind of music do you listen to?" At first, she didn't understand why he cared. "Why are you talking to me?" she asked one day. He looked into her eyes and said, "Because you are not like the others." Those words stayed in her heart. What did he mean? What was he looking for? 2 weeks passed like a dream filled with soft laughter and curious glances. Then one quiet morning, Louise said something unexpected. "I think I like you." Elena froze, unsure what to say. She was poor. He was rich. Could this be real? Was he joking? But the next day he repeated it, this time with a nervous smile. "I think I like you a lot." Now her heart was no longer calm. It was confused, full of questions. Could a rich boy truly love a poor girl? Would his family ever accept her? Was this love, or just a beautiful mistake that would soon disappear? She didn't know. But deep down, something had already begun, something strong and unstoppable. For several weeks they met in secret. Between the scent of bread and the warmth of the ovens, they shared stories, laughter, and dreams. Every moment felt special. Every word felt honest. But secrets never stay hidden forever. One morning, Louise didn't come. Then 2 days passed. Then 3. Elena's heart grew heavy. Did I do something wrong? Did he forget me? She wondered. On the 4th day, the bell over the bakery door finally rang. Louise stepped inside, but his face looked troubled. "My parents found out about us," he said quietly. Elena felt her heart drop. She didn't speak. She just listened. "They are angry," he continued. "They told me I can't see you again." "Why?" she whispered. "What did I do wrong?" Louise shook his head. "Nothing. But they said if I keep seeing you, they'll stop supporting me. No money, no school, no job in the family business." Elena stared at him in disbelief. She wanted to cry but stayed silent. Then he said the words that melted her heart and terrified her at the same time. "I don't care. I want to be with you." She wished those words could make everything right, but they didn't. "You don't need me," she said softly. "You need your future." He reached out and took her hand. "You are my future," he said. Those words were beautiful and dangerous, because now both of them had to face a painful choice: love or money, freedom or family. And somewhere beyond the bakery walls, another pair of eyes was watching them closely, belonging to someone who would do anything to take Louise away. Days passed quietly, but the tension grew heavier with each sunrise. Louise kept visiting Elena, even though his parents warned him not to. Each time he left his house, they asked questions he didn't want to answer. "Where are you going? Are you still talking to that girl?" He stayed silent, caught between love and duty. He didn't want to lie, but he also couldn't stop seeing her. Meanwhile, someone else had begun to notice everything Claudia. She came from Louise's world, the daughter of another wealthy family. People always assumed that one day she and Louise would marry. Their parents encouraged the idea, calling them a perfect match. But now that perfect picture was cracking. Claudia had always loved Louise in her own way, but when she saw him smiling with a girl from a bakery, jealousy burned inside her. How could someone like her lose to someone like Elena? One afternoon, Claudia decided to see for herself what made Elena so special. She walked into the bakery in her elegant white dress and diamond earrings that sparkled under the light. The smell of bread filled the air as Elena wiped her flour-covered hands on her apron. Claudia ordered a coffee, but her eyes never left Elena. When Elena placed the cup on the counter, Claudia leaned forward and said in a cold voice, "You don't belong with Louise." Elena froze, unsure how to respond. Her heart began to beat faster. Claudia continued, her tone sharp and cruel. "He has a future, money, reputation, education. You have nothing but this small bakery. Do you really want to destroy his life just because you're lonely?" Elena said nothing, but her eyes filled with quiet pain. Claudia left with a small, satisfied smile. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. The words echoed in her head. "You don't belong with him. You'll ruin his life." Maybe Claudia was right. Maybe loving him was selfish. Maybe she should walk away before everything collapsed. The next day, Louise appeared at the bakery with flowers in his hands and a bright smile. "I want you to meet my friends," he said excitedly. But Elena couldn't return his smile. "Maybe we should stop seeing each other," she whispered. Louise stared at her, shocked. "Why? What happened?" She looked down at her hands. "Your life is full of big dreams, Louise. Mine is small. You'll lose everything because of me. I don't want that." "I already told you," he said softly, "I don't care about those things." But inside her mind, Claudia's voice screamed louder than his. "You are not part of his world." The next morning, things got worse. Louise's father took his car keys, his phone, and his bank card. "If you want to live like a poor man," he said coldly, "go ahead." Now, Louise had nothing. No money, no transport, no support. But still he came walking to the bakery. His shoes were dirty, his eyes tired, but his heart full of determination. When Elena saw him, her chest tightened with guilt. "He's losing everything because of me," she thought. But Louise looked at her with calm certainty. "This is not your fault," he said. "This is my choice." She wanted to believe him, but her heart ached. How could love survive when everything was falling apart? While Louise struggled to keep their love alive, Claudia was preparing her final move. She went to Louise's parents and said with a sad expression, "I need to tell you something. Elena is using him. She told me she only wants his money." Louise's mother gasped in horror. Tears filled her eyes. When Louise heard about it later, he was furious. "That's not true," he shouted. But his parents didn't believe him. Everything broke that day: trust, hope, and peace. Louise's parents no longer spoke to him. Elena no longer trusted herself. And somewhere far away, Claudia smiled, thinking she had won. But destiny always finds a way to reveal the truth. In the following days, Louise kept coming to see Elena. He had no car, no money, and no promises, but he still came. Sometimes he brought bread to share. Sometimes they just sat quietly together, not knowing what to say. But Elena was changing. She no longer smiled the way she used to. The weight of guilt pressed on her shoulders every day. One night when the stars were faint above the town, Elena sat at her small desk and began to write a letter. Her hand trembled as she wrote each word. "You have a bright future ahead of you, Louise. You don't need me. I don't want to be the reason you lose everything. I love you, but I must go." When she finished, her tears had already stained the paper. The next morning before the bakery opened, she placed the letter on the counter and quietly left. Later that day, Louise came to see her as he always did. But she was gone. He looked around confused until his eyes fell on the folded letter. He opened it slowly, read it once, then again. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just walked out into the morning air, feeling the emptiness she had left behind. That evening, far away, Claudia's parents held a grand party. The guests whispered and laughed, waiting for Louise to arrive. Claudia smiled proudly and told her friends, "Tonight, Louise will be mine again." But as the music played and the candles flickered, the one person she was waiting for never came. As the music echoed through the grand hall and laughter filled the air, Claudia kept glancing at the door, expecting to see Louise walk in at any moment. Every time someone arrived, her heart skipped, only to fall again when it wasn't him. "He'll come," she told herself, forcing a confident smile. "He just needs time." But deep down, she felt a growing fear. Because far from the glittering lights of her party, Louise was walking down a quiet street heading not toward luxury, but toward love. The bakery stood in silence, closed for the night. The windows were dark, the sign turned to closed. Louise stood outside the letter still folded in his hand. The night was cold, and a soft breeze moved through the empty street. He waited 1 hour, then 2. Finally, just before midnight, the door creaked open. Elena had returned to pick up her forgotten bag. She froze when she saw him standing there. "Why are you here?" she asked softly, her voice full of surprise and fear. He held out the letter. "You don't get to decide for me," he said gently. "I decide. And I choose you, not money, not family, not parties. Just you." Elena looked at him, her eyes full of tears. For the first time in days, hope began to return to her heart. She stepped closer, and for a long moment neither of them spoke. The silence said more than words ever could. But while they were finding each other again, something else was happening across town. Louise's mother was still at the party, sitting in quiet disappointment. She had been pretending to enjoy herself, but her thoughts were far away. She missed her son, even though she didn't understand him. Then, while she was talking with a guest, a sound caught her attention, a soft tone from Claudia's phone left on the table. A new message. Out of habit, she looked down and saw a voice recording. She shouldn't have listened, but something made her press play. "Don't worry," Claudia's voice said confidently. "Elena is just a poor girl. She's no danger. I'll scare her and she'll leave him. Trust me." Louise's mother went pale. The room around her suddenly felt too loud, too bright. She turned off the phone and looked across the crowd, her heart beating fast. She finally understood everything, the lies, the manipulation, the misunderstanding. She stood up quietly and left the party without saying a word. The next morning, the sun rose over the small bakery, painting the sky with gold and pink. Elena was cleaning the counter when she heard the doorbell ring. She turned and froze. Standing there was Louise's mother, dressed simply without her usual jewels or cold expression. Elena's heart began to race. "What is she doing here? Will she tell me to stay away again?" she wondered. But Louise's mother didn't look angry. She placed a small folded paper on the table. "I found this," she said softly. Elena's eyes widened. It was the same letter she had written to Louise, her goodbye letter. "Louise gave this to me yesterday," his mother continued. "He told me he loves you." Elena didn't know what to say. The woman she feared most was now speaking with warmth in her voice. Then Louise's mother took a deep breath and said, "I listened to a message on Claudia's phone last night. She planned everything. She lied to us. She said you were using him, but I know now you were only trying to protect him." Elena's eyes filled with tears. Is this real?" she whispered. The older woman nodded. "We were wrong about you. I was wrong. I judged you for being poor, but you are rich in something I never taught my son: honesty." For a long time they stood in silence, two women from different worlds united by one truth. Later that same day, the voice message spread quickly. Someone leaked it from Claudia's phone. Her friends heard it, her family heard it, her schoolmates heard it. By afternoon, everyone knew the truth. The whispers that once praised her turned into judgment. Did she really lie? Did she try to destroy their love? Claudia's perfect world collapsed. She stopped showing her face in public and within a week left town quietly without saying goodbye. But one final surprise was still waiting, something no one expected. That weekend, as Elena was arranging fresh loaves on the shelf, the bakery door opened once again. Louise entered first, but right behind him was a tall man in a dark suit, his father. Elena froze. Her hands trembled. Louise looked nervous too. His father's voice was calm but firm. "I want to talk to both of you." They sat at a small table, the smell of fresh bread around them. For a moment, no one spoke. Then finally Louise's father sighed and said, "When I was young, I loved a girl like you, Elena. My father didn't let me marry her because she was poor. I obeyed him, but I never forgot her. I don't want to make the same mistake with my son." Elena's eyes widened. She looked at Louise, who could hardly believe what he was hearing. His father continued, "I don't care if you are poor, you are honest, and honesty is what this family needs." For the first time, the distance between the two families disappeared. The people who had once said no were now saying yes. The bakery, once a quiet place filled only with the smell of muffins, was now filled with something much greater: forgiveness and hope. From that day forward, everything began to change. The cold walls between the two families slowly melted away, replaced by warmth and understanding. Louise's parents started visiting the bakery every weekend, not as customers, but as friends. They would sit by the window sharing coffee and small smiles as they watched their son knead dough beside Elena. The town that once whispered with judgment now whispered with admiration. People said, "Have you heard the rich boy works at the bakery with his sweetheart?" But this time the gossip carried a tone of wonder rather than disbelief. 3 months passed. The small bakery became busier than ever. People from nearby towns came not only for the warm muffins but also for the story behind them, a story of love that had survived lies, pride, and distance. Louise no longer wore fine suits. Instead, he wore a white apron and flour on his hands. He laughed more easily now, his eyes brighter than before. Every morning when he and Elena opened the bakery at 6:00 a.m., they felt thankful not for wealth or fame, but for peace. One Saturday morning, Louise's mother entered with a cheerful smile. "You make the best bread in town," she said proudly. "I told my friends to visit." Elena blushed, wiping her hands nervously on her apron. Louise's father came in after her, quietly placing his hat on the counter. He didn't talk much, but his presence always carried weight. That day, after the customers had left, he stayed behind. He approached Louise and handed him a small white envelope. "What's this?" Louise asked. "Open it," his father replied. Inside was a folded letter with a single line written in careful handwriting, "The family business is yours if you still want it." Louise looked up, shocked. For a moment he didn't know what to say. Elena stepped closer, reading the note over his shoulder. "You don't have to choose anymore," she said softly. "Now you can have both your future and me." Louise smiled, his eyes shining with gratitude. "No," he said, gently, taking her hand. "We have a new future." They both laughed, their hearts full of light. For the first time it felt as if the universe had finally balanced everything: love and duty, dreams and reality. As the weeks turned into months, the bakery flourished. They introduced new recipes combining Elena's humble family secrets with Louise's creative ideas. People came for the muffins, but stayed for the feeling, the warmth that surrounded every smile, every conversation, every shared moment of kindness. Sometimes customers would ask about their story. Louise would only smile and say, "It all started with one chocolate muffin." And Elena would add, "And a boy who refused to give up." Even Claudia, the girl who once tried to destroy them, became nothing more than a faded memory. No one knew where she went, but her name no longer carried anger or pain. It was simply part of the past, a chapter that led to something better. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, Elena and Louise stood outside the bakery, hand in hand. The air smelled of sugar and freshly baked bread. Children laughed in the distance. "Do you ever think about the beginning?" Elena asked quietly. Louise nodded. "I remember the first time I walked in here. You looked so serious, so focused. I asked for one chocolate muffin and I had no idea it would change everything." She smiled. "Back then I thought love was something that belonged only to rich people in big houses." And now he asked, "Now I know love belongs to those who protect it no matter what they have or don't have." He pulled her close and whispered, "Then we're the richest people in the world." Elena rested her head on his shoulder and watched the lights of the bakery glow behind them. Life wasn't perfect. They still worked long hours, still worried about bills, still had small arguments about burnt bread or misplaced recipes. But they had something greater than comfort. They had chosen each other again and again through every storm. Every morning when Elena unlocked the bakery door and Louise turned on the lights, the smell of hope filled the air. It was a reminder that love, once true, never disappears. It grows like bread rising in the oven, warm and alive. Sometimes people think money is the most important thing, but money can vanish in an instant while love, once real, becomes part of who we are. Louise once had everything but felt empty. Elena once had nothing but a peaceful heart. When they found each other, they discovered what truly matters, not riches, but kindness, honesty, and the courage to love even when it hurts. Because real love doesn't promise an easy path. It promises that no matter how difficult the road becomes, two hearts can always find their way back together. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends who are learning English like you, and subscribe to Learn English with Sara for more inspiring stories every week. And don't forget to tell us in the comments, what do you think real love means?